During the winter of 1927 to 28, officials of the federal government made a strange and secret investigation of certain conditions in the ancient Massachusetts seaport of Innsmouth.
Before we begin, I just want to let you know that I'm completely and utterly biased towards this story. It was one of the first stories that I ever read of H P Lovecraft's, and it's one that's taken a special place in my heart. Along with At the Mountains of Madness, The Colour Out of Space, the Dunwich Horror. To be honest, I'm just a big fan.
I never heard of Innsmouth till the day before I saw it for the first and, so far, last time.
This novella actually had a couple of false starts by H P Lovecraft, finally being finished in 1936 and published within the same year as well. And it's one, again, completely biased opinion, one of the best in his collection. Despite having a somewhat slow pacing in the beginning, it has secret cults, government cover-ups, underwater cities, deals with the metaphorical devil and literal devil, and mutation, alcoholism, racism, and madness thrown in for good measure. It also gives great insight into the man that H P Lovecraft was, as well as a fascinating look into the era, or bygone era, that he comes from. In my opinion, this story represents two of his greatest fears: immigration and miscegenation, which is interbreeding between different racial types. A concept not really an issue in today's society at all, or on the minds of many, if anyone, apart from the hardcore racists. Idiots. But back in the 1920s era, it was a worry for some, a fad or a passing concern for others. For Lovecraft, it was something that gnawed at his mind constantly for most of his life. This is coming from a man who comes from a very sheltered and fair-what lonely background. And also, I think this represents his third fear as well, which is mental degeneration. Obviously, Lovecraft himself, thinking that he has a genetic destiny ahead of him set by his mother and father, he manages to transcend the racism and eugenics of the period. This helps to create a microcosm of nightmares, which helps to shine a light on one of the most basic universal truths: that man itself is to blame for its own destruction and dissolution, and devolution too, if you think about it. However, most of this wouldn't make sense without mentioning the central character. You know, a young man celebrating his coming of age by going on a kind of genetic trip of sorts.
I was celebrating my coming of age by a tour of New England, sightseeing, antiquarian and genealogical, and had planned to go directly from ancient Newburyport to Arkham, whence my mother's family was derived.
He ends up taking a bus to Innsmouth on an unplanned detour, and his interest sparked by the shunning and the rumours spread around by the locals, and also his own research by going to visit a library and seeing very strange relics, artifacts, and a tiara that just doesn't make sense. It just piques his interest. And without spoiling the whole story, there are a couple of standout moments in this story for me. The first being the conversation with the old, drunkard, weather-beaten seaman, Zadok Allen.
Oh, you just sit still and listen to me, boy. This is what I ain't never told nobody. I says I didn't do no prying after that night, but I found things out just the same. You want to know what the real horror is? Huh? Well, this is it. Well, it's this. It ain't what them fish devils has done, but what they're going to do.
And the escape from Gilman House.
I was irresolutely speculating on when I had better attack the northward door and on how I could least audibly manage it, when I noticed that the vague noises underfoot had given place to a fresh and heavier creaking of the stairs. A wavering flicker of light showed through my transom, and the boards of the corridor began to groan with a ponderous load.
To this day, I still haven't read a more thrilling piece of writing which describes and gets into the nitty-gritty detail of trying to escape a hotel room. The pacing is perfect, and everything he decides to focus on, those small details, really add to the anxiety of reading that scene. And overall, I would definitely recommend this story/novella to anyone who's a fan of Lovecraft, who's a fan of horror fiction, thriller fiction, 1920s detective fiction, or just want to expand their repertoire of horror or thrillers or dark fantasies or surreal modern fantasies, or You get the picture. I'll leave a link in the description below for the story, and I'll also leave a link for the fantastic BBC radio play that was created, which I've been using clips in this video. It is the best radio play that I've ever heard of this story. And please like this video, subscribe so you don't miss out anymore, and share it if you're thinking somebody would really like this insight into this kind of a story. And if this helped you find a new story, please let me know in the comments below if you've already read Lovecraft or Ligotti or this kind of weird kind of horror fiction, not friction. Bloody hell. Please let me know what you like, because I'm always looking for more recommendations, and I always want to talk more about weird fiction as well. Thanks for watching this far, and I'll see you in the next one.